Hi, this is Career Coaching X's and O's, and I'm your host, Mark Anthony Peterson, the founder and thought leader at Sierra Consulting, a leading startup strategy and technology consulting firm. A small part of our practice is executive coaching, and these episodes are the summations of some of our sessions. Today's show, 6 things you can do if your values conflict with the values of your company. On October 25, 2018, Google fired several high-level employees because of sexual misconduct, but gave those employees tremendous severance packages. On November the 3rd, 2018, almost 20,000 Google employees, or 20% of Alphabet's, which is the parent company, global workforce, walked off the job in protest. According to Fortune magazine, the Google walkout movement started after the New York Times reported Google had paid Andy Rubin, who was the co-founder of the Android operating system, a $90 million severance package. And according to the Fortune article, Rubin left the company with that severance and the praise of the company. Google never revealed any of the allegations against him. In the wake of the Me Too movement, many of the Google employees felt betrayed. They felt like the stated values of the company, do no evil, had definitely been violated. And they felt like a protest was warranted. Some of you may be in the same situation, where your values are 180 degrees different than that of your company. And that may not have started out that way, but over time, the company may have migrated to positions that no longer align with how you choose to live your life. In this show, I'm going to give you 6 things that you can do if this has occurred during your work tenure. The first thing you should do, research other companies in your industry to see if employees are struggling with the exact same issue that you're struggling with. See how they handled the issue and see what the outcomes were, both for the company and those employees. You need a framework to make sure you understand how these problems are being processed by the executives in the industry in which you work. Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to see who has the leverage in the industry. Sometimes employees with special skills have so much leverage that corporate executives have to pay attention. In other instances, when employees, no matter how great the number, stand up to management, they can all be summarily fired. And that was the case when the air traffic controllers were fired by President Reagan when they chose to go on strike. The second thing I want you to do is to meet with your mentor, the mentor that you have at your company, and see if he or she feels the same value conflict that you feel. This is a great way to help you triangulate, because if your mentor does not feel the same value conflict, it may be just a you problem. You also want to discuss with your mentor whether or not this value conflict is great enough for you to leave the company. Your mentor may be able to help you see ways that you can affect change within the company before deciding to leave. And if that's the case, the rest of this podcast is for you. But if you cannot live with the conflict, use this time with your mentor to start planning your graceful exit from the company. And what I mean by graceful is to look for a job while people are still willing to recommend you. Don't rock the boat to the extent where people at your existing company aren't willing to recommend you. The third thing I want you to do, assuming you're not planning your exit from the company and you believe that you can affect change from within, is to request a meeting with your boss, if the boss is not your mentor, and explain the value conflict to your boss and get feedback. The reason for doing this is twofold. You don't want to blindside your boss with any other activity that you may become engaged with down the road. Second, your boss can act as a litmus test for upper management. If there is a strong negative reaction to what you present, the likelihood that senior management is going to provide the same reaction is pretty high. So using your boss as the first level to test the reaction is a great way to know what potential risk you're putting yourself in by raising these issues. The fourth thing you should do is volunteer to head up a committee that will help address these issues. Again, this is another way to try to find consensus, to see if there are other people who share the value conflicts that you're dealing with. If there are more employees who feel the way you do, the greater the chances that upper management will listen and make some of the concessions necessary to realign your values. Again, if you're finding that no one else shares your conflict, this might be a you problem, and you know exactly what you have to do. Plan your graceful exit from this company and find one that is more closely aligned with your values. The fifth thing I want you to do, assuming you're getting consensus in the committee that you've started, is to draft a letter that addresses the concern that you have and proposes several solutions in that letter. Get as many employees to sign off on that letter as possible and present that to upper management. The greater number of employees to sign off, the more impact it will have and the greater probability you'll get an audience with the senior team to try to resolve some of these value conflicts, or at least to have an open discussion. Now, please note, this could lead to you being targeted by upper management. I taught at a college where students put together a letter and addressed it to the president. Unfortunately, the letter was used as a way to target students for dismissal from the college, which I was greatly opposed to, and I resigned from the college at the end of that semester as I helped many of those students try to figure out the next step in their lives. Now, assuming upper management doesn't respond to the letter or the committee, the sixth thing that you can do is something that you have to decide. The Google employees decided to walk off the job to send a clear signal to upper management. I'm not recommending that you do that, but what I will say is that real change only occurs when someone is willing to make a sacrifice. Now, you know this podcast. If I address one side, I'm going to flip over and address the other side as well. And if you're a boss confronted by employees who are telling you that the company no longer represents their values, I'm going to give you 6 things that you can do to try to resolve the problem. The first thing you should do is host a series of listening sessions. Give the employees a voice. And when I say listening sessions, I mean listen. You sit in a room with a group of employees in a small group setting and allow them to express their concerns. Hold as many as a dozen of these, of 10 or more employees, no more than 15 per session, so that each person has the opportunity to express their concerns. Second, after having those listening sessions, develop a plan based on what you've learned. Make sure you include measurable steps, action steps in that plan. Also develop a communications plan. You need to know how you're going to distribute this plan based on all of the stakeholders who are involved with your company. Third, host roundtable sessions with a select group of the employees who participated in the listening sessions. Vet that plan with those employees to make sure that you haven't missed some of the obvious points that were made during the listening sessions. Fourth, host a town hall meeting to test that message, to test that plan, and to test whether or not the measurable steps are enough to get employees to see that you care about their values and you care about the values of the company. Fifth, based on the feedback from the town hall meetings, distribute your plan to all stakeholders based on your communications plan. And finally, 6, report and update employees and stakeholders on at least a quarterly basis based on the measurable steps you put in that plan. I'm not saying that you have to cave to all employee demands, but what I am saying is that there should be a process for sharing why you have to make certain changes in your company with those employees and stakeholders. That should be a base part of your culture. open and honest communications, giving everyone an opportunity to weigh in on the future of the company. Thank you for listening. These have been the 6 steps you should take if your values conflict with those of your company. I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, hit subscribe and share the show with your friends. Also, leave a comment. Tell us the issues that you're struggling with in your career, and we will research it, and we may even make a podcast about it. If you ever need more support, please find us on the web at ceyero.com, CEYERO.com, and let us help you develop a plan for your career. This has been Career Coaching X's and O's, and I'm your host, Mark Anthony Peterson, founder and thought leader at Ceyero Consulting.